It's Tuesday, April 28th, 2026. The latest on the latest would-be Trump assassin. It's redistricting season, a few updates from there, and one former senator is heaven-bent on suffering well. Next on the AM Update. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, has the latest on the latest Trump would-be assassin. That would be Cole Allen.
Cole Allen's journey of accountability in the criminal justice system starts today. Todd Blanche just indicated to you the charges. Those charges are only 3 charges that are in the complaint that has been presented in federal district court about an hour ago. There will be additional charges as this investigation continues to unfold. But make no mistake, this was an attempted assassination of the President of the United States, with the defendant making clear what his intent was. And that intent was to bring down as many of the high-ranking cabinet officials as he could.
That is U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, making it clear what the Justice Department's view of the latest would-be assassination of President Trump clear. This was an attempted assassination, according to U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, saying that this charge against Cole Allen, there will be more charges. It was basically some form of assault on a federal official with a deadly weapon. There could be a terrorism charge coming as well, from what I have read, which means that he could be facing life in prison. Now, when I saw the original charges against Cole Allen, I thought, that's all well and good. That's great. This is the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. He obviously did this. He was a lefty doing this. How likely is it that justice will also, actually be served? I'm trying to fight those impulses, those very cynical impulses. I don't think we should ever give up on hope that justice is served, but it does give you pause. Hopefully the Trump Department of Justice will be able to follow through all the way. Now, in the lead up to the White House Correspondents Association's dinner that didn't happen on Saturday night, the night before, late night host Jimmy Kimmel attempted his own version of counter or parallel programming, including this just ridiculous assassination joke at the expense of First Lady Melania Trump.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, especially, but I guess maybe it should be the most believable thing ever, because Kimmel got away with a lot of stuff when it came to the Charlie Kirk assassination and the aftermath thereof, and he lived to tell about it. He lived to tell about it and lived to tell another bad joke another day. So I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that he has learned no lessons whatsoever, and here he is again making assassination jokes. Here is Melania Trump's statement on social media, quote, "Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my families isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. People like Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening and spread hate. A coward, Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It's time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community?" That is the statement from First Lady Melania Trump on that atrocious joke that Jimmy Kimmel told less than 24 hours before the latest attempted assassination against President Trump. And I think Melania Trump is probably holding back there. She could have said a lot worse things. President Trump on Truth Social yesterday hitting Democrats for continuing to block funding of certain sectors of the Department of Homeland Security, saying in a post on Truth Social, "The radical left Democrats have kept DHS shut down since February 14th. Our great speaker Mike Johnson is working hard to end the Democrat shutdown and pass funding and the first step of a plan to get full funding of our incredible ICE and Border Patrol agents. We need all Republicans to join together and support this budget blueprint, which will allow us to bypass Democrat obstruction in the Senate and fund immigration enforcement with only Republican votes." There's President Trump calling Republicans to get their act in order again. Seems like it is tilting at windmills there on a number of levels. Back into redistricting season, we had that vote in Virginia last week, the referendum on whether or not to gerrymander certain congressional districts there in Virginia. Well, we have some more. Of course, that referendum That referendum passed. Yes, passed. And so now it heads on to the Virginia Supreme Court, where that court will determine whether or not the entire escapade is actually kosher with the Virginia Constitution or Charter, whatever they call it there. The Supreme Court yesterday handed down a victory for Republicans, though, on Monday, striking down a lower court ruling that had blocked Texas's plans for redrawing its congressional districts. The court hung its order on a reasoning from previous ruling in Abbott v. League of United Latin American Citizens, but did not elaborate. The three liberal justices, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Brown-Jackson, dissented. The decision comes after the Supreme Court temporarily greenlit the state's map in December and California's map in February. Both states spearheaded the mid-cycle redistricting fights that have now been cropping up across the country, including another state. That would be the state of Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday revealed the new redistricted congressional map for the states, with the GOP probably expanding an extra 4 seats should the state legislature, which holds a Republican majority in both the state House and Senate, approve the redrawing. It would return DeSantis to be signed into law and would apply to these upcoming 2026 midterms. DeSantis told Fox News Digital, quote, Florida got shortchanged in the 2020 census. We've been fighting for fair representation ever since. Recently, Governor DeSantis added this as well.
In Washington about Florida. He wants to be Speaker of the House, and he's kind of like, more liberal than Pelosi and all this other stuff from New York City. I just want to know, Florida can't do, we're going to go after Florida. Please be my guest. I will pay for you to come down to Florida and campaign. I'll put you up in the Florida governor's mansion. We'll take you fishing. We'll do all this stuff. There's nothing that could be better for Republicans in Florida than to see Hakeem Jeffries, everywhere around this state. Voters will not like what they see. They will not want that type of ideology. And so the door is open. The invitation's out there. I don't think there'd be anything better for the Republican Party of Florida. But
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis with some comments for Hakeem Jeffries, who last week after the successful referendum, at least for Jeffries' side, after that referendum in Virginia, warned Florida not to do redistricting, to which you heard Governor DeSantis' response. Here's this as well. King Charles III and Queen Camilla landed in the United States yesterday, kicking off their first state visit by a British monarch since 2007. The 4-day visit, touted as a celebration of America's 250th anniversary, will be the King's first U.S. trip since his 2022 coronation. The royal pair set to spend time at the nation's capital, including a formal state dinner at the White House and an address to a joint session of Congress before venturing to other nearby states. I'm only bringing this, I don't care at all. I'm only bringing this up because I'm wondering why people care so much about this. I listen to a Fox News channel on Sirius XM, so it's the audio feed of a Fox News channel, just to and from work, in case anything breaking is happening, because I usually get back from work and I start working on this here podcast. And so I want to know if anything's breaking so I can kind of start to formulate that in my mind. I made it about 10 minutes into my commute home, and John Roberts and the other cast and crew at mid-afternoon on Fox News were just going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about King Charles's visit. Now, I understand when there was like that royal wedding or whatever it was a few years ago. It's pretty princesses and the prince. It's very pretty. Okay, whatever. There's some intrigue there. Whatever. But just a royal visit from the king and queen of a country we defeated 250 years ago. Why does anyone care about this? I don't understand. I truly don't. I don't understand why they were wasting time about it. So the only reason I'm bringing it up, it's not to say, hey, I care so little about it that I'm talking about it now for 2 minutes. I'm trying to understand why people care about it. Genuinely, I'm trying to understand that because I just don't get it, especially on America's 250th. More dispatches from the left's wannabe new Joe Rogan, Hasan Piker. Here he is in a newly resurfaced clip from 2025 discussing the another would-be assassination attempt on President Trump.
What a day. What a productive day. Talked about Trump potentially dying. Did a speech at the Palestine People's Conference. Now we're out here with Senate hopeful Dr. Abdul Sayed getting the lift in.
So there's Hasan Piker, the streamer, the new darling of the left, hitting the gym with Abdul El Sayed, the Senate candidate from Michigan. That was back in 2025, saying he had a productive day, happily talking about Trump potentially dying. That's their new darling. So, yet again, no surprises here. This culture of political violence, it's not something that, hey, breathlessly, we better not normalize this. It is normalized. When we come back, latest on Iran, some news kind of from Secretary of State Marco Rubio as well as President Trump, and one former senator now for weeks, going on weeks now, months now, seems heaven-bent, not hell-bent, heaven-bent on suffering well. We'll talk about that and more coming up next. Secretary of State Marco Rubio provided an update, kind of, on where things stand with Iran.
President Trump canceled the planned talks in Islamabad, Pakistan, encouraging the delegation not to go. And on Saturday, the president canceled the talks in Islamabad, Pakistan, keeping Special Envoys Kushner and Witkoff here in the United States. He said just 10 minutes later, the Iranians made a new offer on paper. And it was better.
If what they mean by opening the straits is, yes, the straits are opened as long as you coordinate with Iran, get our permission, or we'll blow you up, and you pay us, that's not opening the straits. Those are international waterways. They cannot normalize, nor can we tolerate them trying to normalize a system in which the Iranians decide who gets to use an international waterway and how much you have to pay them to use it.
So I guess that's kind of helpful, just having that articulated in no uncertain terms from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, because you might see headlines bandied about how the Iranians say, hey, we're willing to open the straits. We're willing to open the Strait of Hormuz. It's the Americans that won't come to the table. We're opening the Strait of Hormuz. What Rubio is saying there is that their definition of open does not actually mean open. It means something completely different. President Trump also on Fox News gave his perspective, his latest perspective on what's happening with that conflict.
I think the big advantage is that we've taken out their Navy in its entirety. We've taken out their Air Force. They have no Air Force left. They have no Navy left. Their leaders are gone, which is a good thing. They were far more radicalized than the people that we're dealing with now. The people we're dealing with now, some of them are very reasonable people, and others are not. And they're not getting along. There's a lot of infighting, as you know. Mm-hmm. But, they don't have anti-aircraft equipment. They don't have radar equipment. It's all been blown up. Their factories, their missile-making factories have been damaged about 75%, which isn't 100%, so there's danger there. And their drone-making ability has been damaged about 80%, 82%. They're in bad shape. I mean, they're really in bad shape. And, of course,
there's President Trump with his latest perspective on the Iran conflict. Again, kind of echoing what I said yesterday. Kind of seems to be this bifurcation between rousing military successes and geopolitical successes. For the longest time, and maybe this is new, maybe it's not, it was just kind of a given. If you had a military conquest that was successful, especially if it was unquestionably successful, which I believe America and the coalition force, American Israel's, military ventures in Iran have been remarkable. It used to be that also meant that was a geopolitical shift. You had defeated your enemies, and now they're groveling. Well, when it comes to Ukraine, Russia kind of marched deep into Ukraine. They've been pushed back now, and that I saw the other day, we're approaching, in terms of duration of that conflict, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, World War I duration style. Warfare and military success, or lack of success, doesn't always mean geopolitical success or change. It doesn't. I think that's maybe one of the lessons we're learning now. And what the explanation for that is, well, there's a lot of asymmetric warfare now. It's highly ingrained. Whatever regimes are in place tend to be highly ingrained. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, trying to pull on threads here. But it's pretty astounding that you can have astounding military results and not have the commiserate, or at least what you would think would be the commiserate levels of success when it comes to geopolitical shifts and outcomes. And that's kind of what we're seeing in Iran right now, I think. So again, I don't know where we are. I don't know what the plan is, what comes next. Just trying to be honest with you about that. And finally, here's this. Ben Sasse, former senator from Nebraska, received an awful diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. And now for months, thanks to, from what I've seen, is kind of a drug in clinical trials. It's kind of an experiment. It's allowed him to live longer than he thought that he would. So he's been using that time to praise his Savior, just to put it simply. He was interviewed again by 60 Minutes' Scott Pelley. And Scott Pelley, the journalist from CBS, you've seen him, you've heard him before. He was nearly in tears with this question that he had for Ben Sasse, who is just remarkably finishing well and suffering well. Listen to this.
I make no comparison to what you're going through. But there was a moment on 9/11 at the World Trade Center that I knew I was dead. And in that lightning flash of an instant, the only thing that crossed my mind was leaving my family behind. And I wonder how you reconcile that.
Yeah. I'm incredibly blessed. My wife, Melissa, we've been married 31 years. We're going to be apart for a time. But she's tough and gritty and theologically rooted, and she's going to be fine. My daughters are 24 and 22, and they're extraordinary. I want to walk them down the aisle when they get married. That's not likely to be. That's not the math of my time card. My son, we have a providential surprise. He's a decade younger than big sisters. He's 14, and he's going to be fine. He'll have other wise men and women to put a hand on his shoulder. But I'm super bummed to not be there at 16 and 18 and 20 years old in his life. I want to give him more advice than he wants, and I want to put my arm on his shoulder, and I want his shoulders to get taller. But it's not a surprise to God.
And God, you believe, has a plan.
Absolutely. There are no maverick molecules in the universe.
There are no maverick molecules in the universe, former Senator Ben Sasse says. Just an extraordinary perspective, once again, on a man who is suffering well. He knows his days are numbered, like really knows that. He knows he doesn't have much time left. And yet he's using the time that he does have left, the platforms that people are giving him, to praise his Savior and to glorify him. That's an incredible testimony. Incredible testimony. I don't understand how people... I honestly don't understand how people suffer without a Savior. I really don't. I don't know how you have any hope when things don't go according to plan, when big things don't go according to plan. I don't. Call it a crutch all you want. I don't understand how human beings who I know, are made in the imago Dei, God's image. I don't understand how you suffer well or suffer at all without a Savior. I really don't understand. And the reason I don't understand, I don't think it's truly possible. When life doesn't go according to plan, if you do not have a relationship with your Maker, the one in whom your image bears, that's usually when you go and you start to fill that hole with other things that are very destructive. You heard him say there, I do believe God has a plan for this. There are no maverick molecules in the universe. And ultimately, one way or another, that is absolutely true. It just depends on whether or not you're going to be able to see that this side of eternity or the other. Eventually, you will see that. Eventually, you will see that God had a plan for your suffering. Or suffering in general. But I'm not aware, even in the book of Job, was there ever a moment? Yeah, God restored Job. Not completely, but restored him. He wasn't sitting there scraping his boils forever. But before Job died, was there ever a moment, we're not told this, was there ever a moment where he said, hey, 15, 30, however long he was living back then, 30 years down the line after that entire episodes of suffering went down, did he ever look back and say, hey, I understand exactly why God allowed me to go through that? No. But the most important thing, like you heard Ben Sasse articulate in different terms there, blessed be the name of the Lord. That's incredibly encouraging. Whether you're suffering like Ben Sasse, whether you're frustrated in some area, God does hear you. There is a plan. And sometimes I think that God just wants us to live in the tension of, hey, we might have a beautiful conclusion to that story in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I might get to see that this side of eternity. And maybe not. But there is a plan. And however that plan unfolds, whether it's Ben Sasse saying there's no maverick molecules in the universe, or whether it's Job saying, blessed be the name of the Lord, you just got to trust him. Pretty simple, not easy, but pretty simple. That's going to do it for a Tuesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.